All right. The video. Oh, God. Now it's like, ooh, your stream is bad.
Your stream.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're doing a Czech Pilsner next, and then we're gonna do a classic American Pilsner. And then we're gonna do like an American hopped Pilsner. We're gonna do a Keller Pils. Kyle, that's Robert. Robert is a guest.
Are you gonna do?
We have a chat on Discord.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Are you gonna put diacetyl in your Czech Pils?
No, we're not.
Okay.
We're not. We're gonna do a Czech Pils like what would happen if they tasted good.
Do a Keller Pils.
Yeah, gonna do a Keller. Honestly, we're gonna like revisit the German ones. I really want to perfect the German because, like I said, I thought this was too hoppy and it wasn't dry
Do
enough.
hazy Pils.
Yeah.
Hazy
Pils.
Hazy Pils.
Can't wait.
It's gonna happen. I guarantee it's gonna happen.
Okay. We are
Know what IPLs are?
we are on the
Hazy
internet.
IPL.
Internet.
Many.
Milkshake
Trackpads.
with lactose and kettle sour.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Oh,
Pilsner milkshake.
Yeah. I mean, the brewery already has one kind of like that. Or Bottle Logic just put one out. Did you try it?
Yeah.
It was milkshake
I have
sour.
some. I have some for you guys.
Sour
I don't know,
milk.
I was just having a bad day, but it
Hey.
tasted like puke. Like it was
fuck yeah, dude.
nothing against Bottle. I
Butyric,
love
man.
Bottle Logic, but man, did that taste
And the
bad.
best-selling beers taste like puke to me, but I mean,
Well, that's because like literally,
literally can't drink them.
literally, yeah.
Because you're puking after you drink them. I don't know.
Basically, yeah. No, I mean, I always loved that getting go to and do like college, drink this beer if you know how to drink, kind of stuff, and then you're like, well, okay, fine, I'll show you what actually happens.
Watch this. Thank God I have my D pants on.
Kyle's requesting 4K.
To which I responded, 4K, 4K.
That was good.
Yeah, man, I'm
That
pretty
was
happy
a good
with
one.
that one.
That's pretty good.
You nailed that
A
one, man.
multilingual pun.
I can't even do 1080p reliably, so 720p is what you get.
720 is still pretty fucking
And
clear.
I'm doing it all off a MacBook.
Oh,
so-
Kyle, are you trying to see like all of the imperfections in my skin? Look at my acne. Look at it.
Wow.
Getting
Yeah.
there real nice and deep black.
Fucker. Yeah.
You fucking dick.
Yeah. So now I have a camera. There we go. Proper podcasting.
Oh, man. Oh, can you throw these in the fridge, man?
Oh, Eric's in the house.
I'll be your fridge boy.
Eric Vasquez.
Well, you're
Eric,
fucking-
didn't your birthday just pass? Happy late birthday. Or was that way long ago and I'm just being silly?
John
Oh, we
is,
also got someone playing Fortnite.
Is that a Powerline Ethernet thingy over there?
Yes.
Hey, how's that working for you?
It works.
I've been pretty happy with the Wi-Fi thing I got. Did I tell you about it? I got the Eero,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Netgear Eero. Works pretty good
That's cool.
to get the whole house coverage. I get like 400 megabits per second Wi-Fi in the back of the house now.
God, I gotta get better
Fucking
internet.
what? We have like the same
As in 400?
Yeah, like
the
400
same
megabits.
the
yeah.
same company, and I top out at 75 now.
Well, that's why mine was $300.
Yeah, I paid.
Worth every penny.
I only have that
I have
there
the
because
300
that
meg.
Mac Pro I bought doesn't have a Wi-Fi card.
I know
I
shit.
ordered one for $20. Like it has the antennas built into the
Yeah.
case, but there's no card, so I had to do that for now just to get basic internet. And that
I
like
did-
it does like
decided to
45 megabit.
Yeah, that's fine. I decided to invest in getting really good Wi-Fi just because so much more of my shit's wireless now.
Yeah,
Internet of
I've
Things
been thinking about
stuff
that too.
Dude, it's funny because like I got just like a regular Wi-Fi like relay extender just so I could watch movies in my bedroom.
Yeah.
and it's great. And I'm like, I should have just gone mesh the entire time. Because
Yeah, I mean, you can get away with a router and extender for less than $200, and most of the mesh kits are going to be about $253.
yeah, I
But-
might, dude. I got a little fucking Netgear one for $40, and it works
Yeah.
great.
They have an outdoor AP for mine too, but it's like $200 just for the one outdoor AP.
Nice. Are we good?
Feels pretty metal having a wireless mesh at home though.
It's actually chainmail.
Wireless chainmail.
That would actually be a pretty good name. All right.
You can play
All right.
frisbee golf with it.
Yeah, ready?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Four Brewers. My name is Matt Becker, and as always, I'm joined by
John Holzer.
Jason Harris.
And Greg Nagel.
We got a real fun show today with a real fun topic and a special guest. We got Mr. Robert Kiefer. What's up, man?
Hey.
So, Robert, you specialize in gluten-free brewing.
Yes, all gluten-free, so 0 ppm.
You're talking literally gluten-free, like not like Clarity Firm, throw it in your regular beer and say, oh, it's gluten-free.
Right, yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, along the way it got labeled as the gluten-free chemical, but anybody that actually has any sort of like stomach issues or digestive problems,
Actual
stuff like,
celiac disease, that
yeah,
kind of thing, yeah.
we can instantly tell the difference. And usually the effects are pretty much just the same. Like, so I myself,
Wow.
I still get sore joints, inflammation, brain fog, tummy aches, anything.
Even at like below like what was it, like 10 ppm or something?
Yeah, the legal limit's 20 ppm. Most of these
20,
Clarity
that's
Firm beers are coming out at 12, and even at there, I'm still having the issue. The analogy that I like to draw for most people is think about somebody with a peanut allergy, and then you take a handful of peanuts, and you go, well, I just sprinkled a chemical on here that makes them not peanuts. You still want them? You're like, no, not really.
No, you're good.
Still gonna die.
So in that case, instead of that, you do just a lot of like alternative grains and
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff. And you also brought
Everything.
a bunch of beers with you, which I'm excited about. Which
Yeah.
one did you want to start with here?
I feel like we should just go from least bitter to most bitter, I guess. Or,
Consider me
least alcohol
game.
to most alcohol.
Cool.
I'm going to start with one that just took second place at Groundbreaker Brewing's gluten-free competition.
Nice.
So this
Congrats.
is my, I call it Mrs. Johnson from Caddyshack, Balk Like a Dog for me. Hope it,
Nice.
hope it pours all right. Yeah.
I just watched.
At first, I thought you were going to say,
watched that
I'm
the
sorry,
other night.
Mrs. Jackson. That was...
Gunga.
Yeah, there's no gluten in here. Sorry, Mr. Jackson.
Gunga Gunga.
So what are the details on this beer?
All right. So
You brought notes and stuff. This is rad.
I'll try to keep a journal now. So
We need to have grown-up homebrewers on here more often.
For real. including us.
Or homebrewers, period.
Yeah.
I actually just brewed.
Did you?
I kegged the beer and it's
Mazel tov.
carbonated. Yeah, I would have brought it, but I'm like, I was too drunk last night.
Greg's keeping the name alive.
I brewed a wit beer from a box. A real quick story. It took me 2 hours.
Really?
From start to finish because I like pre-prepped and everything the night before. It
Was
was amazing.
this a Windsor job?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott's the man.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have any like actual malts at his store, but I mean, he's definitely like my rice hulls guy. He's my sorghum syrup guy. If I ever need to prop something
You
up,
could probably,
Nice.
he orders.
Yeah.
He's really good about ordering stuff.
I mean, I also have a direct feed to a lot of people in the industry just by doing what I did with you guys and just being gregarious and reaching directly out to them and going, hey, like, there's got to be a better way. Like, help me out.
And also doing having such a specific need than anyone who has any interest is obviously going to want to engage.
Yeah,
which is very
true.
cool. So this is a Bach, you said?
Yeah, this is a Bock. It's brewed with Holletower and Nelson Sauvin. So one thing you learn really quickly when you're brewing gluten free is like, okay, we've got to get the enzymes up because there's, I mean, the same kind of reason why they use barley with a lot of rice beers is that rice doesn't really have like any enzymes at all. So I use a base of millet and buckwheat. The buckwheat has pretty high enzymatic activity, but then I also add in exoamylases to really kind of help bring that starting pre-boil gravity
So
up.
you definitely add amylase enzyme.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not spitting into it, but
He's like chewing on.
So what kind of gravities are you getting out of this? Like
so this one, the pre-boil gravity was 104.
was
So like, I don't know how to convert that to Plato, but if I'm like,
so 1.040.
yeah,
That is. Okay.
I thought you meant 1.004, and I'm just like, that seems low.
Pre-boil.
No.
Wow.
no. So I'm almost at regular,
And
barley.
so then how dry do you get? Like,
This one
where does it
finished
finish?
at 009.
Oh.
Okay, so
pretty good.
it's actually still pretty comparable.
Yeah. So I added a little bit of rice syrup to get my like post-boil gravity up. So a little bit of rice.
So this will be sitting just around 4% ish then, 4.5.
So it's 106 was my like OG, and then I finished at 009, so it was about 6.7.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Pre-boil gravity. So your post-boil
Yeah,
gravity.
I care about pre-boil gravity because one of the things that I actually wanted to get away from is using like beet syrups and table sugar and stuff like that because it really gives this like bubblegummy cloyingness to a lot of beers.
Thins it out too.
Yeah, and I don't really like that because most of the gluten-free grains already are highly fermentable because there's not a lot of like dextrins and other things like that in them.
Right.
So, I mean, I've finished at water like almost every other time.
I was going to say, like, that's always the thing that I was curious about with this is usually you think of, your rice, your sorghum, and those finish out like almost completely flat.
Yeah.
So maintaining body, like how do you accomplish that?
So and that's one of the reasons why I add buckwheat and crystal like malts in there. I mean, there's an amazing malt house in Colorado called Grouse Malting and Roasting. Twyla used to be Henley, I believe it's now Solus. She's fantastic. I mean, she's a true genius. I mean, the samples that I have here are just like the base malts, but she's got crystals.
You brought malts with you.
Yeah.
How cool is this?
Yeah. So she's got, there's all different kinds. So she's got pale millet. She's got crystal millet. She's got French roast millet. She's got Munich millet, Vienna millet.
Crystal millet.
Yeah. So like just about any kind of flavor
Sounds
you
like
can.
a metal band.
Yeah. Right. I've got chocolate roast millet at home.
Prog metal.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
I'm the drummer of Crystal Millet.
So you're saying with your condition, then regular barley beer is pretty much a no-go anytime, right?
Yeah, it's really not worth it. I mean, like if I want to just try it just to try it and then spit it out, totally fine, and I won't have much of a reaction.
That was kind of the wonder I was having is like, where do you get inspiration, right? If you're kind of unfortunately cut off from participating in the regular beer scene, are you kind of left to your own devices to be creative?
Yeah,
or?
a little bit. I have had to read a lot because you can't get your own sensory a lot of times just because like I'm not going to buy a $20 bottle just to pour it down the drain.
Yeah. Yeah, and it also like I think Jason was kind of getting at is also replicating specific styles
Very
has to be
true.
tremendously difficult. Like
Yeah.
so you're kind of like do you kind of look at like a style and then kind of try and translate as far like grain to grain?
A little bit. I mean, there's kind of also this just like understanding that it's going to come out just tasting a little bit different. And that's, I think, where a lot of people, when you look at like other competitions. So like I entered a couple of these beers in NHCs, like the Homebrew Cons event. And some of the feedback was just like, they just didn't know what to expect.
What the hell is this?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So like buckwheat, a lot of times, the reason why I use it primarily when I'm trying to do all grain is because it is high protein. So it'll help with that body, with that head retention, with things like that.
Yeah. I noticed when we poured this that there actually was head left over. Whenever, again, a lot of us have drank some gluten-free beer that
To be honest, I don't know if I've ever seen millet used as the malt. I know sorghum I've seen a lot.
Sorghum gets used a lot for some reason.
Rice.
And it's also used a lot in production, right? Because, it's easier to just get it at mass scale. But, it's funny. I was at a Bevmo recently and the buyer was there, just so happened to be. And so I was in the gluten-free aisle. It's like, oh my God, you're like one of the guys that buys these things. Like, tell me your opinions. Like, and I'm like, all right, first of all, the gluten-reduced stuff, none of the people that actually have my stuff are really going to buy it. So it's just going to sit here and you're going to throw it away. Yeah. And then stop selling Redbridge because that is just god-awful. Like, that is the definition of the twang that people talk about when they're talking about sorghum.
Okay. Right.
It just tastes like, okay, they messed up somewhere in the brewing process. And no, that is a lot of times sorghum. The funny thing about that is there's been studies, and the Clarity Firm chemical that gets used to reduce gluten, if you put it in a sorghum beer, it helps get rid of that twang. So it's got to be a protein within the sorghum thing. So yeah, go figure. I mean, I've used Clarity Firm in gluten-reduced beers, or in gluten-free beers, not to reduce the gluten, just to either help clarify or do other stuff.
To affect the
so
flavor,
millet looks like tiny seeds. How
Bird
do you,
seed. It looks like bird seed.
It looks like quinoa.
How do you mill it?
Yeah, it has to be milled, and it's funny at home. I actually
Come on,
well played, sir.
We had to go there. Where else are we gonna go with that?
He's like, I just thought of that right here.
Actually, yeah, my brain is not working, and my brain just actually said that. You milled the millet.
Yeah, well, so yeah, you usually have to do like a double roll or a double pass through. I mean, Scott can't even mill my rice. Like if I'm using rice malt, he can't even mill it because it's too small.
I noticed that there's rice malt in here too, and it has a husk on it.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm like, this is so alien to me.
Very little drainage bed. I mean, if you're looking at the size of these things can clump together super quick, and you're basically left with like, if you're not using the good processes, like, I mean, I've had 4-hour sparges before.
Oh my God!
Where you're just like, I hate my life. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, so, you know, you got to get creative. I've talked with a lot of different people just to kind of get my process, you know, to a point where it's repeatable. And I just, for the first time last night, actually didn't use rice hulls for the first time and had 0 problems.
Nice.
So super excited about all this stuff.
So if you're using rice that has a hull, I'm glad that he thought that was funny. Fuck you guys. It's like you're using rice hulls already because you're using the hull.
And that was actually one of the reasons why I was using malted rice to start as a base malt, but the issue became is that I wasn't getting high enough starting gravities because rice has like a 102.5, 102 something, 102 mid as it's like PPG, as opposed to when you look at millet, it has like a 103, 103.2. So like naturally, I'm going to want to use the one that's going to get me a better yield, so it costs less. Because the thing is like if we're buying in bulk,
you're talking about potential extracts.
Yeah, potential extracts. So like if I'm buying barley, you kind of everything's known, but it's also you can get it for like 47 cents on the pound, right? Whereas you know millet's at least $2.20, if not $4 to $8.
Yikes! So essentially, what you're saying is the yield, the gravity yield that you get per pound is going to be lower with a lot of these.
Yeah,
especially when it comes with like the rice, because there's a lot of husk in there and not a lot of starch in the middle.
Yeah, and I learned about like gelatinization and saccharification the hard way with some of this stuff. Where I'm just like, I'm at 101, I'm at 009. What did I do for the last 3 hours while this was sitting in hot water?
Are you able to step mash?
Yeah, and that's actually what I've adopted as my like number one process. If anybody's brewing with buckwheat out there, 135 is the magic number to mash in at.
It's your protein rest.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. I mean, takes it like away. Like, I mean, buckwheat is one of those things where like you can't usually use more than 20 to 30% grist ratio with buckwheat, or else you are in for a terrible day.
It's similar to rye, essentially. It has tons of beta glucan.
Yeah, taste, clarity. I mean, it's almost like a replica of rye. The funny thing about buckwheat is it has the name wheat in the name, but it is not at all involved or anywhere close to wheat. It's not even a grass. It's a seed from a flower.
Now with I've made sake before. And,
I'm sorry, Greg. Real quick, can we go to the next beer because I really want to keep diving into your collection here.
So I had a question about rice. You know, I made sake before and used koji to kickstart the enzymatic.
Right.
Is that something you do in your process as well?
Not really. I don't tend to use molds and bacteria that often, but that's mainly because I'm using PET carboys, and so like residual yeast, residual mold is a huge concern for me, at least.
You don't want to have any kind of cross contamination.
Yeah, I ended up having a mixed fermentation one time with Brett. Great beer, but ruined the following 4 beers that I brewed. Yeah. So there you go. But no, I mean, at the same time, that's definitely a consideration. But it's just like there's enough stuff out there that you can do to get to the right level of malts, sugar, enzymes, everything. So this is the one that's in the glass.
You're rocking my world here, man.
The first beer, I don't think we really talked about it. It was very earthy and honey-ish, and it had some like citrusy zing to it.
Nice. I'm sorry. I'm mining you for all kinds of fun information so much.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely proud to have you guys try it. That one, like I said, that one took second place at a recent competition. I took second place to the president of the gluten-free homebrew club that I'm in. So it's like, I guess it's a worthy loss, as it were. And he's actually local to Portland, so I'm not gonna say that he had home field advantage, but I also shipped my beers 800 miles just to be in that competition.
Dope.
But a lot of the feedback that I've gotten is that for a Bock, it is a little bit on the sweet side, and that's one of the things that I've also been kind of curious about is like millet has its own residual sweetness, which is kind of good for like using like extra hops or like not having to worry about something get too acrid.
You're like. I can't imagine what the starch composition would be after conversion. I mean, it's still going to be maltose, maltotriose, maltotetriose, but like, what percentages do you end up getting?
Yeah, I haven't done enough tests like that, but I mean, the thing
you'd have to have a pretty hardcore lab to to be able to dig in there, I'm sure.
And so, that's not as big of a consideration per se, but one of the things that's just really important to me is just yeast health. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Pitching rates is super huge. Oxygenation I use, but sometimes I try to and now that I've had a lot of beers actually finishing at 000, my goal is to actually kind of do something that inhibits a little bit of that yeast activity so that I don't have such an over attenuation.
Sure.
And things like that. So I'm aiming for 101 mid sometimes just because
Well, like you said,
that body, that sugar, all that stuff.
Like I was saying a little bit earlier, normally you'd have gluten-free beer, you'd pour it in, and the head fades out like soda. And so when you actually have some head left over, you're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
So what's this one that we're drinking now?
So this is what I call the Swiss Celebration, or I brewed it actually for a coworker's. She just had her first daughter, and so we did a party at the office. And so I called it the Lofty Lager because her daughter's name is Alia, which means either lofty one or exalted one. And I really didn't want to use the exalted
Exalted lager.
I'm like, that's a little bit over the top. But yeah, so it's brewed with Zurich lager yeast.
That's an interesting strain to play around with.
Oh yeah, it's super fun. I didn't know anything about this lager strain when I first started using it, so I assumed it was just like any other lager yeast, but this sucker can ferment 15% lagers.
Yeah, that's your Sammy Klaus strain.
Yeah, it's voracious. I've just been repitching it. I'm so excited about this yeast. It's so cool. I
wonder if that's a Diastaticus strain.
It's great because it really has low diacetyl. It's super flocculent for a lager yeast. So I think this one I only aged for like maybe 25 days. I didn't actually age it for the full 30 just because I was like, oh, it's clear enough. Let's do this.
Diastaticus strain is the name of my tech metal band.
But that actually brings up a good point because I learned about diastatic power the hard way. And so I had to do a lot of research on this because I was putting in recipes to various brewing softwares, and I would be in the red with DP. I was like, what the hell is DP? I'm like, I know what else it means online, but not in beer.
Sorry, that's the pizza.
The DP.
But yeah, we were talking about DP.
So I'm getting an O a lot of times when I'm entering multiple different malts into a batch, and I'm like, why is it in red? Why am I in red? And then it's like DP. I pull up the question mark. It's like diastatic power. You have no diastatic power to convert these malts.
Aha.
And I was like, oh, what? So that's where obviously the exo amylases comes in, all that other things to get to the right starting gravity, but yeah, that's one of the things. That's why I always now I'm kind of just stuck on using buckwheat because millet still has really low enzymatic activity. I mean, it has good protein content, but the issue is I don't want to be adding 4 and 5 teaspoons of exoamylase to something just because it's cost prohibitive after a while.
Sure. Wow, so tell us more about this beer right here.
So yeah, the Swiss lager or Alia's lager is brewed with Hersbrucker and Hallertau Blanc.
Nice.
It has that really floral taste, scent. So I put a little bit of rice syrup solids and maltodextrin. Rice syrup, obviously, to just kind of keep it at good ABV, but then also not infringe on taste.
Sure.
And then maltodextrin to keep that body in towards the end and keep the finishing gravity high enough.
And what was the malt bill like?
So it was pale millet, buckwheat, cara millet, and that was it. And then just rice hulls for drainage.
What percent buckwheat was it?
It was 30%, about 30% buckwheat.
Yeah, because I'm definitely getting this really distinct spicy, earthy note. It plays with the hops really well. It plays with that earthy perfume thing that you get out of those Hersbruckers too. This is great.
It definitely, this beer hits. When I hear Old World Lager, what's the alcohol on it?
It is, and it's funny because did you read my note or
yeah.
Okay, because I brewed it just like an Old World Lager, but so it's 5.4%.
Cool. Okay,
nice.
You mentioned the spice thing. I definitely get some cloviness and
for sure, and that is definitely pleasant for me. I kind of like that. I brewed a Pilsner recently, and it was just over the top. But I also kind of tried to do an American style Pilsner with Cascade and stuff like that, and just added the hops at the wrong time and in too much of a quantity, and really kind of created this astringent vibe.
Yeah.
But pretty much everything since I've done there, I've really kind of been able to dial those in a little bit better, just because obviously every mistake you get better. But
sure.
Did you guys talk about how this is kind of? At least I think it's coming off Belgian-ish to me.
That was my first impression
that's the clove
too.
thing you're saying.
Yeah.
It's pretty spicy, clovey.
What's your temperature control system like?
So yeah, I'm using brew jackets. So let's see. I pitched the yeast for this one at 48 degrees Fahrenheit, and then had to bring it up to 54 to get it to start fermenting, and then kept it right in that range. Diacetyl rest to 64.5 for a day or two, and then dropped it back down, and then aged it for, I believe, Yeah, about a month, I want to say. Brewed it on the 17th of February and racked it on the 1st, and then the party was on April 12th, and I had kegged it like a week and a half before.
Nice.
Cool. Do you mind if I crack this open?
Yeah, please,
So
by all means.
I just googled brew jacket. It's this immersion guy here.
Oh
or
yeah,
is it,
it's dope. It's
Yeah?
it's
It
definitely a
looks
good
pretty
system.
awesome.
I like it. I mean, there have been one or two issues, but that's just kind of sometimes user error. Those guys are really responsive. They care about their customers.
Oh, someone doesn't have their sound off.
it's always you, Matt.
I turned on the don't disturb, man. There, I'm gonna do that and mute, so y'all
But
can.
yeah, but brew jacket's great. I mean, I started with one. I've quickly learned like, oh wow, I really like this brewing thing, and it's so much easier with this brew jacket. And this is before I even had like a kegerator or a beer fridge. And so I was doing like one tank fermentations.
How low
through
can
this.
that go with temperature?
It really depends. Like dead of summer, you're not going to get that sucker lower than 40. But
Still pretty low.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, when you're trying to do, clear up a beer that's really pesky or whatever, it can be tough because you can
Yeah.
only get so low.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's great because people, I think a lot of people are anti oxygen uptake, a lot of that stuff. And this definitely helps you keep in one vessel super easy.
Yeah, it's also a lot smaller than converting a fridge or something. Even when you're talking about like a mini fridge or something like that, they have a little like got a corner on their website where it's just thrown in the corner with a wrap on it. But I mean, it would work for that, right? Like a lot of people who are brewing in apartments or condos or something who don't have a bunch of patio or garage space to throw that Craigslist refrigerator out there or the freezer they converted.
Converted chest freezer, dude.
Yeah, it's definitely ideal for a one bedroom apartment for sure. The front hall closet I did, I think my fiance begrudgingly gave it up to me. And she just so happened to also begrudgingly give up a little bit of her office space so that I can store my brew stuff.
Nice.
But I mean, we're both kind of mad scientists. She's a professional gluten-free vegan baker. So
those are vegan too?
yeah, so the
I
cookies
wasn't
are
gonna
vegan.
ask, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
And these beers, most of these beers, if I'm not mistaken, are all, except for the Inglorious Grapefruit, are all vegan as well.
nice. Sweet, dude.
So yeah, it's not necessarily the first consideration because I personally don't really care that much.
It's a nice.
At the same time, yeah.
That's just snacking on buckwheat.
Dude, buckwheat is great. It's so
Okay.
complex. It's got so many things going on at the same time.
I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, you guys, you know how many saisons I could make out of this?
Matt-
You know how many saisons I could make out of this stuff, you guys?
Matt's
Yeah.
bluegrass side project, snacking on buckwheat.
I actually, the funny thing that you mentioned that I did a 90% buckwheat saison, really tough day of brewing because
Yeah, I can imagine.
I hadn't installed my step mash program in that point. But yeah, one of the I no hopped the saison too. It was perfect. I loved it.
Nice.
Did you bring a dark beer by any chance?
I mean, I guess you could call the grapefruit a little dark, but it's like the
like
darkest.
something with
let's-
some
let's-
roasted barley. That's what I would, or
Let-
not barley, but roasted
buckwheat.
Yeah.
Let's keep this party going.
Yeah,
Let's-
yeah.
let's-
All right. Let's see. So I think I'm gonna do. Well, let's see how the passionate pale ale opens because as you guys can all see, it's a little low in the bottle. This was the one that I didn't send to competitions, but we'll see if it pours.
Something I'm noticing about these is they're good for what they are for gluten-free beers. It's like a bizarro world of beer. Like
for
it's
sure.
just it's beer, but it's just a little different in certain ways. You
That's
know?
why I wanted to try the malt.
It's like beer with like funny eyebrows.
Something like that.
Unibrow.
I know what you're talking about.
Just kidding.
Yeah, the Anthony Davis of beers for sure.
My jokes are not.
Oh, that was a
landing.
joke?
Yeah,
Oh,
That was a joke. That was the joke.
sorry, man.
Yeah, right.
That's why I wanted to try the malt because
that was a reference to Evil Spock. For the record,
Matt's like, please clap.
please clap.
Poor Jeb.
Oh man.
Poor Jeb, nothing. He's rich enough.
So I tried the malt just on its own, the millet, and it's got definitely like a bitter backbite to it.
Yeah, I noticed that it has like
There's still tannins for sure.
Tannin. Like
So yeah, I have to be careful about that. I thought that I could get a little bit higher on my like saccharification temperatures or other things like that, just because there's some forums on Homebrew Talk that have talked about that. But really and truly, like you will convert like so much astringency, like to the point of unpalatability.
And that's why you do a lower mash.
Yeah. So
I'll start at 135, ramp to 152, maybe finish it a little bit at 163, and then 168 and call it even.
And that's as high as you go.
Yeah, and then head on up to boil.
Nice.
The funny thing also is that with like, so I use a grain father as well. The holes on that are super small, even for a false bottom, and millet still sneaks through. So I've got like
I'm
I've
sure.
got a handheld spaghetti strainer that I'm pulling through the pre-boiling stuff to make sure that I don't also get too much tannins in the finished product as well.
I made a grant for that. Like I have a little custom grant I made out of an asparagus cooker.
Nice.
It's pretty dope. It's got little floating switches in it that it'll automatically turn on a pump to empty, and it's way overkill. But I was like, this actually works pretty well.
Homebrew gadgets, dude. What is more overkill than homebrew
Honestly,
gadgets?
I'm on this Brew Jacket website and I'm like, oh, this stuff looks so cool.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay, see now y'all know how I feel when I'm looking at like hi-fi stereo shit. Now that's like that's the thing that I look at. I'm like
Audiophiles.
no, yeah, but I'm like no, but this preamp it's only $400.
Well, so they have one of those Brew Jackets that works with that catalyst fermenter with the little jar thing on the bottom. And I was like, I was geeking out on that when I saw it too, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Super cool. One where you can unscrew it. It's like a mason
it's got the little
jar.
It's a mason jar on the bottom,
Yeah.
The thing that I found that was kind of cool about it is like you get the product in the mail and you look at a couple of the products and you're like, oh shit, like these guys are making a lot of this stuff by hand. And these guys are craftsmen, which is really cool.
That's cool.
So like they pre-drill the holes in, they make the convert for you. So like with that catalyst fermenter, catalyst doesn't really sell that hole in the top. But if you buy the catalyst top from Brew Jacket, they will send you one that they drilled for you if you don't have the tools.
Nice.
Really cool guys.
So this just reeks of passion fruit.
Yeah,
so.
I call it the passion because I brewed it just in time for Easter. But yeah, so it's
I see what you did there.
The passion of the fruit.
What you did there, see it, I do. So I wanted to actually make it a hazy pale ale, and then have it be like a fruited hazed. I had originally titled it Hazed and Confused, but the specific Vermont ale yeast that I used was highly flocculent. So like,
incredibly flocculent, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why everyone uses that for hazy beers.
Yeah,
because
I was surprised, and I was like, I could like even like 3 or 4 days into primary, I could see through the pet carboy.
This is really good.
I think it's also people conflate the Hurdy Terps with the rest of the New England style.
It's not the same.
It's not really the same
It's
style
not the same.
at all.
Yeah.
That beer does end up being a little bit cloudy, but more in like the unfiltered, there's crap in the can kind of way.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so this one was even more simple of a grain bill, just pale millet and buckwheat. And then most of the taste is coming from the fact that, I aged on about 4 pounds at the 6 gallon carboy level, 4 pounds of passion fruit puree.
You can taste
That's
it.
that's a lot. That's a lot for.
There's a lot of passion
for
fruit
passion
on that
fruit.
beer.
Yeah.
Oh, it is passionate for sure.
You put a little bit of food coloring in this, you could sell this to fucking the hype crowd all day.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
totally.
Well, the thing that I like about
Drop
it
some pink in
is
there.
I actually, what's funny because I'm almost not allowed to brew sour beers in the house because Dominique, my fiance, actually hates sour beers, and she's like, "This is my favorite beer," and I'm like, "But it's like sour." And she's like, "Yeah, but it's not Acetobacter sour."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah, this
okay.
is definitely citric acid sour.
Yeah, definitely citric acid sour that not pucker but bite.
Yeah.
And kind of like that mid palate as opposed to like back of tongue or front of tongue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
This is
Yeah.
fantastic. This is so
great,
far
yeah.
the best.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a mix of
It's-
Fuggle and Matuika.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah.
Motueka definitely helps like jack up that tropical fruitiness thing for sure.
So yeah, I've been on a tropical kick recently.
On the second and third drink too, the that big blast of fruit kind of mellows out, and you can get a little bit more of the hop character and stuff.
You get a little bit more of the bitterness in the back. too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the funniest feedback on this beer from HomebrewCon was just made me laugh my ass off. Is they were like, "So you're calling this a Vermont ale, but I mean, this is not double IPA or IPA enough to be called a Vermont ale." And I'm like, "Oh my god! So wait, you guys don't get it, do you? Right? What? No, I entered in the fruit beer category. Like, come on, seriously?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, at the same time, I definitely love this beer. The funny thing is the reason why I brought a bottle is I was actually, going to growler it, but it kicked when I was trying to growler fill it.
Oh, oops.
Yeah. So Dominique's actually bringing the half growler with her to her event today over in Covina. It's crazy. We did 2 events now, 2 days in a row that were at breweries. And they're vegan events, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I guess a lot of breweries are getting wise to the fact they're like, oh, we have a centrifuge. Well, it's vegan then. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was kind of cool. We were at Common Space yesterday with a little vegan pop-up. And then I forget the name of the brewery today, but it's in Covina. I'll probably be heading over there after that.
They're about the only one over there.
Yeah,
I think it might be Rev or something like that.
Rev's the only one that I can think of in Covina.
But yeah, so it's through this company called Vita Verde.
Nice.
Green.
Where's Progress? Aren't they in that area too?
No, maybe.
Oh no, they're in like Laverne or something. I don't know. I don't know shit about East LA County.
Alosta, I think, is over there too.
Lost. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So something like that. Yeah. So it's super exciting because we've started to get a little creative when we're at these events. Like I just finally, after a year of knocking on the I'm going to start brewing German beer door. Hey, Dominique, you need to start making pretzels. And so she just started making vegan gluten-free pretzels. Out of this world. Phenomenal.
Nice.
Like in terms of somebody who hasn't had a piece of bread since 2010, it blows your fucking mind.
Right on. Is she still doing a lye bath and that kind of stuff?
So we soda water, all that stuff.
Doing it legit.
She does it super legit, super traditional. I just love all that stuff. And then we do pizzas now, which is super dope. So gluten-free crust that she par bakes in the morning. We've got a wood-fired mini pizza oven that we bring to these events.
Nice.
And we're tossing in pizzas and serving them.
Yeah,
super fun to be able to do that now. And,
we should move on to the next beer because I just this is just
there's a lot to talk about.
It's wrecking my brain here.
Yeah, that's the thing is I'm I'm listening to all these podcasts and I'm not hearing a lot of coverage on this topic, and it's there must just not be a lot of knowledge.
I really think, honestly, if you look at the commercial examples on it, it kind of makes you think well, that doesn't work.
True.
Yeah, that's essentially true. I mean, the examples that you find of...
And this is not to knock the company, but I reached out directly to White Labs, and I was like, hey, I brew all gluten-free. I'm literally 45 minutes from your guys' location. I am happy to source small batch gluten-free worts to you guys free of charge. No problem whatsoever. I love your guys' products. I love the genetic diversity that you guys bring to the yeast cultures, everything. And they're like, well, we have Clarity Firm, so you're good.
That sounds like White Labs.
Yeah, see, you might be opening a can of worms here because I'm not a fan of White Labs personally.
I'm wearing a very specific hat for a very specific reason.
Let's talk about this beer first, but then I want to talk about that
so
hat
this
that you're
is a
wearing.
tropical golden strong ale. There are some flaws in here because I was rushing this beer to try to get it into NHC. I call it MSG. There's no substitute for Mosaic, Simcoe, and Galaxy, which are the 3 hops that are in this.
Oh yeah, you definitely get that
massive dry hop,
giant tropical fruitiness.
Yeah, so a lot of a lot of that tropical note.
It smells fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
It tastes good too. I'm
Thank you.
not getting necessarily any flaw in it.
Yeah, well, there you go. Because and a lot of times it just comes down to the judge who judged your beer. It's very person to person. And yeah, no, this one is the of the NHC beers that I brewed, this was the first one to kick.
Nice.
Well, you said
everybody
this was
seems to gravitate
golden
towards it.
strong.
Yeah, tropical golden strong ale is what I'm calling it. I'd originally brewed it like a double IPA, but I didn't put enough bittering hops in at the beginning of the
I was going to say, to category, I feel like it's very hoppy compared to a golden strong would be.
What were
but
the
it's
comments
not
that you got?
hoppy enough to be an IPA though.
Yeah. What were the comments that you got?
So some people got 1 or 2 off flavors in there. Some people said it's cloying. Some people said that there was a twang because I did use I think I'll use a little bit of sorghum in this one. Just to get that, because I brewed it like a double IPA, so I wanted to have it be around 9%.
I can get a twang from it. I can see
would,
that.
Yeah.
I honestly, I would say that there was some astringency. That's the thing that I'm getting.
Yeah, and there's it's kind of an imperfect science when you're using a spaghetti strain.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a lot of times where I'm dealing with that. So that's a lot of times where I'm actually more doing a continuous hop as opposed to a massive beginning boil and post boil.
Right.
Just adding minimal amounts. So I'll get sometimes I'm starting as low as 0.5 ounces at the start of the boil, but I'm adding 0.5, 0.5, 0.5 every 15 minutes, and
Gotcha.
you get to the right level. But then you can also dial it back if you need to.
Sure.
So I've literally brewed a lot of beers recently. But yeah, so this one, I'm going to find it at some point. But either way, I used way too much rock candy, Belgian rock candy in here. So I had originally only planned to use about a pound of it. And I'm like, I have no idea when I'm going to use this rock candy again. So let's just pour the rest of the 3 pounds.
Just kind of went for it.
Yeah, just went for it. Went effing crazy. So yeah, it was Galaxy at 60 minutes, Simcoe at 50, Mosaic at 40, Galaxy at 30, Simcoe 20, Mosaic at 10, and then Galaxy, Simcoe, Mosaic, all back at the end.
It's got a really good hop profile.
Yeah, it does.
They blend really well.
There's like a cloviness to it too that you're getting from that Belgian yeast that really kind of plays it. So what's the deal with the Y yeast?
Okay, so Y yeast are like in terms of like people that I've reached out to specifically. First of all, they're like the fastest to ever get back to me. Like literally, like same day. Like, oh my god, you want to do this? Awesome. We haven't done this in a bunch of years. We thought we should do more of it, but like we didn't sell enough the first time because this was back in like 2010. And nobody really knew about gluten free at that point. But so I reached out to them. I'm like, hey, I'm doing a seminar at HomebrewCon this summer. I really want to be able to exemplify popular styles that people either A, already have a taste conception of, or B, be familiar with. One of my favorite yeast is your 3711, and then I like to brew lagers and pale ales. And they're like, perfect. So they sent me with no like a nutrient pack in there. Just the yeast cells, because
the nutrient pack has wort
like
in
a barley wort,
has actual barley wort in it.
Yeah,
Aha.
So that's why a lot of people stay away from brands like White Labs, or just a lot of gluten-free brewers are doing only dry. And I've used dry a couple times, but I mean, when you're talking about like gratification as a brewer and you see something blowing off, I've never seen a blow off from dry yeast.
Right.
And I kind of like that. You're like, oh man, this yeast is really happy. You're like, oh yeah.
And I've noticed too, you've been tending on the beers you brought towards some fairly exotic yeast strains too. And dry, you don't really get those options.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Very true. I like genetic diversity. I like that where, and it's weird because I'm like, maybe you should dial it back and do some traditional stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'd probably get bored of it before I finished it.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, like doing what you do, you would be doing like a facsimile of a traditional style, and so it wouldn't.
Yeah, if you're not really going to get to the style, why do it?
Yeah, it wouldn't
it's
really
the kind
work.
Of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
sure.
I tend to just find myself doing weirder stuff. So, but yeah, to finish on the Y yeast thing, they gave me 1272, which is American Ale 2. They gave me 2206, which is Bavarian Lager, and then they gave me the 3711 that I really wanted for the French Saison.
Very cool. So is this something that you can special order from Y yeast, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think I got a little bit of special treatment just because I'm teaching a seminar, and then it kind of becomes a platform for their brand, which is super cool, which I'm totally happy to, they gave me this free hat. Like, hell yeah. I love you guys.
Can't argue with that. Points for the win, you guys.
Just say you're doing a seminar.
Yeah.
Seminar.
I wouldn't try to pull that because then they're definitely going to check it. This is all, you can find me online. Like just type in Robert Kiefer and like you'll see like.
How do you spell your last name, by the way?
Kei.
Kei. Oh, I got it wrong in my notes.
It's all good. No, I mean, apparently in the 40s it became unfashionable to be German, so my family changed the spelling for Irish.
Yeah.
Strangely enough.
Yeah. So yeah, Kiefer in Gaelic means wine cellar keeper.
Cool.
So there you go.
Bringing it all back. My name means beer glass. My last name's Becker.
I love it.
Nagel means nail.
Nice. Nailed it. So barrels, barrels, because
Yeah.
you got the nails in the barrels,
right.
right? So you got one more beer here, man. What's the story with this last one here?
So this one is like one of the only beers that I've brewed twice. Second time around, I went a little bit crazier, like almost to the point of like, why, Bob? Why? But so the first one, the first grapefruit IPA that I did ended up at 15%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was because like the first two beers that I brewed, the first one I threw out because I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, yeah, oat's a great base malt, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, threw
You
that
ended
whole
up
thing
you
out.
ended up with a big pile of snot, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that was embarrassing. Well, let's see how big we can make these beers. And so I literally just poured the kitchen sink into the first one, got it up to 15%. This one I also went like a little crazy with, where I was like, you know what? Dominique's grandpa's got a pomelo tree. I'm just going to harvest those. I'll use a bunch of pomelos. And then I started looking at recipes after I had juiced all these grapefruit, and I had like 40 grapefruit juiced. And they're like, use 2 to 3 grapefruit. And I'm like, well, fudge, I'm gonna totally use all this grapefruit. And so it's basically what I call a millet wine. This one is just gnarly.
Because you're allergic. Greg just passed it by, and I'm like, that's rude. Greg's allergic to grapefruit.
For sure. No, I'm glad that we didn't kill anybody, because I'm totally the same type with stuff I can't have. But definitely worth a whiff if you can take the scent.
Yeah, I can smell it for sure.
Let's see. So it's pale millet, buckwheat, and crystal millet, and that was relatively low. I actually got a pretty good pre-boil at 104, and then I added buckwheat honey, 4 pounds of it. I added brown rice syrup, 3 pounds of it.
That's 1.104.
Yeah, no, 1.04 on the just pre-boil, but then I added a shit ton of stuff during the boil.
Gotcha.
And so the post-boil gravity was 1.125. So way the hell up there.
That would
Millet
that would be something like in like the 22, 23 Plato range, something like that.
Millet wine is life.
Really high. Millet wine is life. So good.
And so the weirdest part about this is I was like, this is also one where I basically had to transfer this because I had to put the MSG in the same fermenter. So I didn't let this finish all the way out. It's at 102.5 as it's finishing. So it's funny because the taste actually is a little bit more like grape-like. It's almost like a grape mead, if you will. There's a little bit of that bitter from the grapefruit, but it's not like too astringent. So it's kind of interesting. But it finished at 13 point something.
You get a lot of the acidity too. Like
there's still a little citric.
A lot of citric acid. Yeah.
It's a millet wine.
It's a bit drier. It doesn't have that caramelly flavor that you normally would get, which I actually kind of like. It makes it.
What are your boils usually? You just doing 60 minutes?
So I actually do 75 minutes.
Okay.
But that's usually just because my pre-boil batch size is somewhere around 7, and then I don't like to add in maltodextrin or rice syrup solids into the boil because they just it'll scorch them or it'll clump them.
Sure.
And so I will take the residual runoff from the grain bucket, pour that into a separate boiler, boil that down while I'm boiling the other one, pour in the maltodextrins and the rice syrups, and then add that solution back in.
Interesting. So you're almost doing like a wee heavy technique in a way.
Yeah, it's almost like a decoction too, if you will.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
But that's really worked well for me just because the one thing that is tough about the Grainfather is that its pump is probably one of the most unforgiving pumps. If you screw it up, like I've had hops come out of the bag, or I've had like leaf hops come out of the bag, or yarrow come out of the bag, and you can't pull anything through that.
Yeah, there's no going back.
Yeah, you got to
back flush.
Yeah, you got to use your siphon at that point, and then completely triage the whole thing before you can brew another beer.
Nice.
But I mean, at the same time, great products. I mean, especially like the big thing for me is footprint. Right, I would love to have a 4-vessel brew system. Are you kidding me? But one bedroom,
wouldn't we
way.
all, John?
Yeah, no. There's definitely some people in the OC Mashups club that I am probably the most jealous of. This one guy, Aaron, one of the coolest guys in the world. He lives right near the water in Newport Beach. One of the coolest setups I've ever seen. He's got his own like copper coil chiller.
Like is he like the clean cut dude who always wears like a tie walking around?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's got like a couple sons actually in the club too, so it's like a family affair, which is super dope.
Did you see the video we did a couple years back with the Peace Brewing and Anaheim?
I don't know if I did. His
system
awesome.
is like he's got a huge brew space, but he tried to do the smallest footprint, so he's literally got like a winch.
A winch.
Oh
wow!
That raises and lowers his
so he's gravity feeding his.
That's awesome.
His louder.
It's pretty clever and well thought out.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Grainfather, but at the same time, like, it serves its purpose well, but I can only brew like a beer a day.
So just to cap things off, I'm wondering if you have someone who wants to get into gluten-free brewing and like the way that you're doing it,
For
like
sure.
What are like 3 pieces of advice that you would give to them? Like what are like the 3 like essential things? I mean, grain choice number 1, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I would recommend is like, yes, definitely start with extract just to get your feet wet, as it were. But try to convert to all grain or brewing in bag as soon as you can, because you're gonna get so much more pleasure out of it.
Sure.
Right. The sorghum thing is like you're going, oh well, if I just do the sorghum better, then it'll taste better, and it's like there's so many other grains out there.
Right.
Right. And then I would almost say like you can now I can source brown rice syrup way easier than I used to be able to.
Okay.
They're selling them in bigger quantities now. And that one is good. But it also, you worry about like lack of taste at that point with brown rice.
Right.
So there's this trade-off. But at the same time, it's like I would much rather have a clean taster beer than a twang beer.
Sure.
So there's that. 135 degrees is my second one. Is just buckwheat is a smooth criminal.
Are you doing it's like an infusion mash? So you're just doing an infusion of water to get to one temperature and then another infusion of water, or are you pulling liquid off, boiling it, and then adding it back?
So yeah, great question. And you can do decoction. There's definitely tutorials online for gluten-free decoction brewing.
Right.
You maybe got to search a little bit, but you'll find them. That being said, the system that I'm using is great for step mashing. Grainfather is, you can customize the temperature and it'll go right to it.
So you're using like an inline heating element.
Yeah, exactly. So like there's a heating element underneath the grain father. It's all in one. So the grain bucket is inside. When you're done with the mash, you pull it out and then it drains directly down into the boil kettle and then you just sparge over top of it.
Gotcha.
Right. Let's see.
So it's almost like a Herm system. In a way.
Yeah. The Robo Brew, I think, is also a comparable one.
Okay. To listeners, if you search the internet for like probably homebrew talk, then you can find all kind of information.
Yeah,
about
and
these different kinds of homebrew systems.
I have a couple articles on homebrew talk that I've written.
Oh, cool.
A lot of these were like as I was discovering stuff. So like some of the first article, probably don't even worry about it.
Probably a little outdated at this
Because
point.
I even mentioned spelt because I was already using clarity from in a lot of beers because of the ppm content of most of the starter, like the liquid yeasts that I was using.
Right.
But then at the same point, like I also got flack from that same article. So
What was that?
What are you doing over
Hi,
there,
Greg.
Greg? What are you doing?
Hey, what you doing over there, Greg?
social.
Yeah, he's recording me. Guys, this is so cool.
So definitely choosing grain, step mashing, and then any other advice that you'd want to give to anyone who wants to give us a shot?
So I think there's some people that have said like these grains cost so much that I would not brew, and it's like if that's the way you feel, then that's the way you feel. But at the same time, like there are really not that many good commercial examples. Also, a lot of these breweries that are like dedicated gluten-free are still stuck in their region because they haven't been able to get the mass distribution yet.
Those are also people that are still kidding themselves that they're saving money by homebrewing, right? Like those of us who've reached the level where you're like, we're saving no money. Like we have wasted so much money. Yeah, it's a hobby and a money sink like anything else. It's not like you're gonna be like
it's a hobby. It
is. Yeah, and that's the thing is I was like, well, in response to that, I mean, anybody that's buying gluten-free is already paying like $4 more for a 4-pack.
Yeah. Well, and also it's a funny thing too, though. Like you seem to be in a position that homebrewers were in 15 years ago, where these beers aren't on the shelves.
Yeah. No, it's kind of cool because I'm like,
So
I can do whatever I want.
You got to do it yourself.
That's the thing is that's where the real innovation comes from, and that's where like I'm actually really super excited to see that a lot of these gluten-free breweries are doing competitions now because that's where the innovation happens. Because literally. I can only say the best things about Groundbreaker, Ghostfish, Evasion Brewing, Moon Shrimp Brewing, Hallidaily, Departed Souls. There's a lot growing. It's growing drastically. But when you look at brands like Glutenberg, you understand that they're brewing to scale. Like you get that bubble gum. You get that like, oh, okay, they added a bunch of sugar in and probably just did a cereal mash because they may not even have the equipment for it. So like one of the things that I found was really weird is like Groundbreaker uses, and I don't know why, they use lentils and unmalted chestnuts as their usual like cereal grains to get the protein up, and then they'll add sorghum in as their main fermentable. And the fact that they're able to still make clean beers with that is definitely a feat. But at the same time, like I tried their number 5 IPA and was just like, if I wanted lentils, I'd get Indian food. Like
weird.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, you guys are crazy. How do you do that? What? But they just won first place at JBF for their like Cascadian Dark or like Dark Ale. Like, all right, they're doing something right
in a standard category.
I understand. Well, I mean, it was a gluten-free category.
In the gluten-free category.
But that's one of the things that's also kind of interesting is that at NHC this year, I believe like me and Joe's the president of the Zero Tolerance Gluten-Free Club. One of the most phenomenal dudes you'll ever meet. But the one thing that we start to understand is that like this needs its own category. It really does need its own category because we're not using rye, we're not using barley, we're not using wheat. So
because like you
stop
said,
treating it like regular beer.
Yeah, what you're doing is so far outside of standard style guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using all alternative grains, like why am I going up against a rye beer?
Yeah,
that also has a barley base.
True,
right? It doesn't even taste the same, and so it's like if you drink a barley beer and then my beer, you're like, oh, okay, well, there's clearly flaws in this.
Right, even though there's
no misconception of it.
It's comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah, totally.
So Brewery West up in San Pedro has a mash compressor thing.
Yeah, mash press.
Mash press. Not many breweries do that, but I assume they could probably get away with doing gluten-free stuff a lot easier than most normal breweries.
That's a good question.
Yeah, because they've done 100% rye beer.
Oh my God,
right?
That's really hard to do, and that's dope.
Yeah, they can do it.
Weird.
I think Julian Strego did one too.
Did he really?
I think so.
But yeah, I'm totally like open to that because one of the things that I know is that starting a brewery is incredibly cost prohibitive.
Yeah,
for sure.
To say the least.
So I mean, like at the very least, I would love to be like either a recipe consultant or like somebody where it's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a gluten-free beer. Like, let me ask you a couple questions. Like, please, like I'm open to any and all of those questions because trust you me, I've taken flack on my articles just for including anything like even liquid yeast. They're like, how could you? I mean, don't you understand the compounding effect? Well, what are you talking about? Like if I brew a 1 gallon starter and I don't pour the trub on the green beer, we're dealing with 0.02, 0.01 ppm.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to remember if it's coming from a place where like that's with people with peanut allergies, like you could kiss somebody that had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and die. Some of these people. So I totally get
zero
it.
Still needs to be zero.
Zero tolerance is zero tolerance, and I totally respect that now. And that's one of the things where I'm like, yes, I definitely would love to help these people out because there is an issue right now. There's an issue where you have groups that have made a lot of money on a chemical. They want to protect the interests of that chemical.
Yeah.
And I can respect doing business, but one of the areas where I draw the line is when you're dealing with people's health.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. So it's like, okay, I like them. I like the fact that they care enough about this. And the weird part about it is like, I try to spin it to a way that maybe like, Chris White would understand like, hey, like there is some incredibly historical significance to not only millet beers, but all rice beers.
Sure.
Right. And even if you just do like a rice lager strain, like people would love the hell out of you and you guys would be saints.
Yeah.
That's it. Like
but unfortunately Chris Wright just has his head so far up his ass.
He's a good
We're still talking about White Labs.
I know, sorry about that.
Speaking of which, where can people?
We'll see how they fare after that lawsuit.
Yes. Oh God. Yeah. For real. Oh,
I am not up on my times, but I need to look up that.
Speaking of which, I discovered that the Zurich Lager strain is indeed a diastaticus strain. So it can ferment all kinds of fun shit. Yeah.
Very cool.
If people want to find you online, if they want to ask you questions and stuff like that, where can they find you?
So I'm on a couple different social medias. So it's just Bob Kiefer. So BOBKEI, F as in Frank ER, on Facebook. Instagram, I'm Bob Z Kiefer, same spelling. And then I don't even care. My email is my last name, first name, so Kiefer Robert at Yahoo.
Very cool. We really appreciate.
Do we want to plug the supplier you got for these grains? I looked them up.
Oh yeah, that's a good call.
So yeah, gluten-free homebrewing is the literally the godsend of this whole thing. They make this possible.
If you literally search for gluten-free homebrewing, they are not on the first page.
It's weird. I'm like, what?
Someone like buy more of their stuff so they can get coined for SEO.
It's glutenfreehomebrewing.org.
Yeah, they're a .org, which totally screws a lot of people over. But the thing that is kind of cool about them is like they're like, oh yeah, we'll totally send you these grains for free. And so they sent me these sample packs to bring to the podcast, and they've got training tutorials on their website. They've got a little bit of a different way of doing their stat mass, where they do at like in between 155 and 163 for like 2 hours, and then they like rest at between 140 and 150 for another 2 hours. And I'm like, I want to get my brew day done in 1 day.
Yeah, that's weird.
So I can get my mash schedule down to 2 hours total and still getting a good enough starting gravity to have 5%, 6% beers doing all grain. And like, that's good enough for me. Like, I like that. And I don't like to die every time I drink. Like, I will do a grapefruit IPA that's 13% like once a year.
Once a year, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I like to drink the beer. I'm solving a gap, right? Because you go to like Total Wine, you go to all these other places, they have gluten-free beers, but like, they're still the factory industrial style.
Right.
And you're sacrificing a little bit.
For sure.
So, but yeah, I mean, I'd say one of the best all grain breweries on West Coast is Evasion Brewing. Ben, who's the head brewer over there, I've talked to him a couple times. Just incredibly gracious, incredibly intelligent. I mean, he's doing stuff that's incredible. Like, so he has currently a millet wine that's an all grain millet wine, and it's impressive. Like, he got it up to 12% all grain. Jesus Christ. And pretty much only used millet.
That's crazy.
It's, I mean,
I can only imagine that louder. I can only imagine that louder.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But so yeah, no, these guys are doing some like incredible stuff. But that's the thing right now is you got to travel for it. So it is worth it to brew it yourself. Now, when you look at the reason why I do it all grain is because then I can actually get it to a containable cost.
Right.
So right now I've gotten my like in a 5-gallon keg scenario, if that's what I'm brewing to, I can get it down to like $50 per batch.
That's not bad. All things
so
considered.
that's like $1 a beer.
Nice.
So I'm still in a sense, you know, if we're looking at scale, like technically saving money. Technically.
Well, Bob, we really appreciate you coming on. This is fascinating.
Yeah,
man.
you guys are so awesome. I'm just so excited to live close enough to come out here live. This is dope.
Definitely. We appreciate you coming out, man.
Yeah, it's worth the drive.
Well, if you want to find Four Brewers online, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. You can find all that information on fourbrewers.com. Go to fourbrewers.com/live if you want to hang out with us while we're taping this show. Go to fourbrewers.com/YouTube to see all of our sticky, icky video content. Go to patreon.com/fourbrewers if you want to donate to the show. That definitely helps us out. Go to your favorite podcast client or Apple Podcasts or to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating because it helps people find the show. And if you want to get in touch with us directly, hit us up at feedback@fourbrewers.com and brew the shit out of it. Pow.
Yeehaw.
Boom.
That was great, man.
Dude,
That
you
was
guys are awesome.
really good.
Yeah.
That was so fun. Like,
We haven't had a good tech show in a long time, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of really
Yeah,
good,
for real.
good info.
I have to pee so bad. Oh my God.
yeah.
Fucking move.
No,
All right,
that was-
we're gonna eat some
And
pizza.
that was one of the reasons why I wanted to come on your guys' show too, is because there is this high level of technicality that you guys even bring. Like, I was so worried, to be honest with you guys, that you guys would be like, oh yeah, diacetyl. Or something like that.
That's good to
Because
be.
like, oh my God, the episode that you guys had Dogfish Head on here.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, how is Sam? Is Sam all right? Like, is he calling you guys out and like ripping your ears off? Because like, holy Jesus, like,
I don't think he knows who we are.
but dude, that was probably one of the most
He's
scathing
literally-
reviews I've ever
Sam
heard.
has literally met and done a show with John, and then John saw him, and he's just like, "Yeah, welcome to the festival, man."
Yeah. he
Oh
doesn't
my
remember me at all.
God.
Yeah.
But that guy is
He
such
bought
an
me dinner, and we hung out for hours.
he's
and he
such
still
an
didn't remember
evangelist.
me.
I mean, that's the thing is like
I still love him. He's great.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to get the word out. But yeah, that's the thing that I notice even like as a recruiter, right? I'm having, you know, if I'm not having at least 10 conversations on the phone to 20 conversations on the phone per week, I should get fired. Yeah. Because you have to talk to people to get to know them, right? And so that's the thing is like in order to be a good successful brewer like Sam, like you got to get the fucking word out there.
Yep.
But
And I kind of wish I would have known about these evasion guys because I was just out in Newburgh. Which
Oh, my
is not that
God.
far. Yeah.
All right, y'all. We're gonna end the live stream here.
Not
So
gonna lie,
we're gonna have some pizza,
super worth it.
and we're gonna be back in probably 20 minutes or so.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, because well, that's the thing is, it's like I'm super excited.